This gentleman has been so busy for the last 9 days or so. This is our first chance to talk to him. I'm thrilled to be able to do it. He is the chief of Sonoma County Fire District. Chief Mark Hine is here. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Pat.
Good to talk to you. Your assessment of the fire and the response to the fire so far?
So things are looking really good today on the fire. We're at about 77,500 acres, but we're at 68% contained, and I think we'll see that number go up steadily each day from this point on. The whole west side of the fire, from Geyserville to Healdsburg to Windsor, is looking cold along that side of the fire, and we're feeling really good about that. Got a little bit of work to do on the far east side over in the Geysers area and in the area around Middletown. That's real steep and rocky terrain over there, so it's really hard for our crews to get on the ground and get in there and take care of some of that. But we're feeling really good about the fire. This was an all-out fire assault.
It was an assault.
It really was on some of these communities, and particularly the town of Windsor. That fire approached early Saturday morning, 3 different points of attack on the town of Windsor all simultaneously, which really challenged us.
And absolutely it did. And there was more than one point, Chief, where that particular area was under assault by the fire.
That's correct. It was there were 3 separate locations here. The first was at Rada and 101, and all of CAL FIRE's computer fire behavior models had been indicating that if the fire got on the west side of Highway 101, it would get itself well established up in the hills above Windsor and Healdsburg and would run all the way to the coast. So that was an absolute priority, was to hold that fire at Highway 101. And I couldn't be more proud and impressed with the firefighters. It was nothing short of heroism those 2 or 3 days to protect this town and hold that fire. At one point, we literally had firefighters lined up and down Highway 101 through Windsor. And if I heard it once, I heard it 100 times that day. Firefighters approaching me saying, "We will not let this attack this town."
Yeah, and clearly that did not happen. It is amazing. And, of course, naturally, we've been spending most of our time, Chief, talking with CAL FIRE at the overall helm of this. But talk about the Sonoma County Fire District and our other local agencies and how their contribution made some of these differences.
You bet. It made a big difference in the outcome of this incident. It was really one of the big driving factors that helped save the populated communities this fire was threatening. So we had a good heads up from the Weather Service for a few days that we were about to be assaulted by a historic wind event. And as a result of that, all of the fire chiefs in Sonoma County had been on multiple conference calls every day, putting plans together, bringing all of our off-duty personnel back to work, staffing up every piece of firefighting equipment we had, and then strategically deploying that in areas we thought would be most impacted by the winds, and that was particularly along the 101 corridor in the county. So we had resources staged, ready to go to action before this wind event ever occurred. In addition to that, our local emergency operations centers were staffed and open. Windsor's was open. The County of Sonoma's Emergency Operations Center was open. We had been pushing out emergency notifications, emergency alerting to all the community. So I think between the fire service, law enforcement, and our communities, we were well prepared when this event did occur. And lo and behold, we did have a fire start that night during that wind event up in the Geysers that quickly spread, as everybody knows. But I really have to give a shout-out to the communities, particularly in Healdsburg and Windsor, that heeded our evacuation warnings and orders to leave.
Yeah, how much did those evacuations and the orderly nature of those evacuations, Chief, help fire personnel to be able to direct their attention on the firefighting itself?
Oh, it's such a game changer, Pat. It makes a world of difference for the firefighters because now we can focus on stopping that fire's progression from entering these populated areas. If everybody was still present, our focus would have been on their life safety, their evacuation, their rescue. We would not have been able to do any actual firefighting on that. So having these communities emptied out prior to the fire arriving meant we could put all of our attention and all of our assault laser focused on that fire.
And the assault continues, obviously, but in a much lower situation for as far as firefighters are concerned. Still, Chief, there are just under, as of this morning, just under 5,000 firefighters still on hand battling this blaze, and that's local and out of area mutual aid agencies too. And are you surprised that at this point in the Kincade fire, with 68% containment, that there are still as many firefighters on the job?
Well, we have a lot of area burned, over 75,000 square miles. I had an opportunity to fly the entire fire yesterday with CAL FIRE, and it's a huge footprint to this fire, and interwoven between many, many homes, large businesses, large wineries. And from the air, you can still see a lot of little smokes coming up from inside the burned area. So we have a lot of work to do still. And coupled with that is the long-range forecast, where there's no rain in sight forecast for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of work still to do on this.
Yeah, no question about that. At what point would you expect that the number of fire personnel would change, in a downward way?
Well, that's already actually taken place. So yesterday we started releasing many of the fire engine strike teams off this incident for two reasons. One, their service was no longer needed in some parts of the fire, but we also have to pull back and look at the statewide picture right now and get these resources back into the state mutual aid system. Southern California is under significant wind events and having a lot of large fires right now.
Yes.
So as our need locally winds down, we have to be ready to support our neighbors down in the south.
Yeah, no question about it. It's that mutual aid is definitely a two-way street when it comes to this time of the year. Is there a date at this stage of the game, Chief, where you would consider fire season over?
For us, it's normally after we've received 2 inches or more of steady rainfall.
Oh, boy.
And so that's gonna be a ways out. As we've seen, the wildland fire seasons have changed. It's almost a misnomer to call it a season now.
Yeah, it is. So we're talking about closer to Thanksgiving, perhaps, before we get that kind of rain that you're talking about. And we talked about the community's response to the evacuation orders, et cetera. What are the priorities, Chief, for fighting the Kincade fire today and through the weekend?
So right now it's getting the east side of the fire completely buttoned up. So it's the area up in the hills near the geysers. It's the areas up in the hills near Middletown on the Lake County side. We still have a large air attack helping us out with this, with over 17 helicopters at the Cloverdale Air Base, and I'm still flying our tankers too. So today's all about getting that piece of the fire completely contained. Okay,
very, very good. And I imagine there are a lot of tired firefighters throughout this situation. An extra hour's sleep this weekend might come in very handy for those folks.
I think so, Pat.
Yeah, I think so, too. Well, Chief, I'm glad to talk to you. Certainly, our debt of gratitude continues to first responders and to firefighters, of course. Chief Mark Hine, thanks for being here, and spread the love around, will you?
Thank you, Pat. Sure will.
All right. That is Chief Mark Hine of the Sonoma County Fire District.